Excellent. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. For anyone who succeeded in avoiding any of my previous talks, my name is Sebastian. I'm a person who receives support. I know it's important to achieve together the use of respectful language. We all remember the dismal old days of service users, that term that conjured up images of leaders sucking resources from society. The times are changing, they are, but there is, as ever, more to be done. Elmi appeared rather excitedly in my inbox. So excitedly, in fact, it felt to me like she was right there at my door, desperate to know if I'd heard the good news. I said she'd have to be more specific because between her and Michael Fullerton, I receive a lot of good news. She told me about something called the 7 Keys to Citizenship. We have their diagram, should be coming up here any moment now, that shows what they are. For anybody who can't see them, they are purpose, freedom, money, home, help, life, and love. A man called Simon Duffy wrote them. He's the director of Citizen Network, a big mover and shaker in welfare reform. He wants the world to be a place where we all matter. The keys are an ideal that he wants to apply to absolutely everyone. But the reason he chose to put a lot of focus on people with support needs is because he recognised that we are a group of people that seem to find it particularly hard to be granted true citizenship. Simon's got a great video on YouTube. Elmi will send you the link. It's only 6 minutes long and he describes all the keys. I've got limited time and I don't want to just rephrase his words. It's his work and he describes it best. Also, he has a nice calm voice. I don't. In my last talk, the one about community, which you viewed as a pre-recorded video, I made a real effort to speak slowly and clearly and not be my million miles per hour self. Stephen, however, edited the video and told me that he had kindly removed all the silences. Oh my gosh, he edited out my breathing. I'd never stopped for breath before in my whole life. So in fairness to Stephen, he probably thought those little gaps were some sort of medical emergency I was experiencing. But yeah, there were supposed to be pauses, like people that aren't me pause from time to time in life. So if any of our deaf communities struggled last time because your interpreters couldn't keep up, I was thinking of you and feel free to send your complaints to my colleague. Even if you don't already know the 7 Keys to Citizenship, I think you might feel like they're familiar. You're actually already working with them. If you wonder why you recognise them, take a look there on screen at our lovely wheel of engagement. As you can see, through the use of the wheel, we're already working hard towards those same ideals that Simon Duffy has. And what we do is we don't leave it the same. We review it and change it. That's some of the good news Michael likes to spread. He says, guess what? We're going to reinvent the wheel of engagement again. So we all get together and we co-produce changes, seeing if it's inclusive for everyone. And if not, what we can do about it. Most of our changes, of course, are really important to improving quality of life for everyone. We did also have that one meeting where we did this really earth-shattering thing. We changed the colours of the wheel to match the company colours. Of all the changes, I must say, with absolutely no sincerity at all, that one changed my life the most. I'm not supposed to make fun of the wheel, by the way. I have been described as challenging more than a few times. Sorry, Michael. Anyway, the whole wheel, I think, is encompassed by the key that is called life. As with the wheel, the keys to citizenship overlap a lot. All these overlapping parts of our lives and other people's lives, everything mushes together and has a habit of making life complicated. But it's also what makes life marvellous. Ideals are tricky to make happen in reality, aren't they? Why are they trickier for the people that you support? home. That key for a lot of people without support needs very often overlaps with freedom. They choose what area they want to live in. There's life and love and purpose. All of those keys too. People often set up home with their families, people they love, in an area that suits their lifestyle and is convenient for work. It's actually not easy for anyone combining these things, and something most people have in common that dictates a lot of their choices is the money key. People without support needs struggle to have all of the keys to citizenship too, and especially when the cost of living is high. Still, there are additional barriers for people with support needs. If we need specialist housing to cater to our needs, there's already a housing crisis, but supported livings and care homes are in even shorter supply, and you might need to move a long way to find the right place. You will more likely be living together in a home with people who have similar support needs to yourself, rather than people you've necessarily chosen as friends. Why? It's not because it isn't recognised that it's nice for people to choose who they live with, but there are complications, and I can't give you any answers to these. I can just give you the questions to think about. A lot of people talk about a welfare reform where everyone can live in their own flat with all the support that they need. Where are all these flats? Where are all the support workers? And where is the money that will pay for all of this? The keys can sometimes come into conflict with each other. Someone gets moved out of a supported living because they like the idea of having their own home. So they get given a flat and they hold that particular key. However, in their supported living, they had shared staff that they were paying for together with their housemates. The staff were around all day, so they and their two housemates had a whole lot of freedom to arrange activities together, and a member of staff would happily support them to do those things. Also, the three of them all had a job they went to. They couldn't be there alone, but they had a great sense of purpose and were truly working hard with the right support. Now the person lives in their own flat. They can't afford one-to-one staffing just themselves all day. So they can only go out for activities at prescribed times. And they have to quit their job, sadly, because they don't have enough support hours. So they gained one key and lost others, all at the same time. What if you want to live with friends of your choosing? When someone moves out of one of the homes that one of your care managers runs, do you have a meeting with the residents and ask if they have any old mates that they'd like to invite to move in? Or do you generally fill the room with someone who a social worker refers to you, who has been through the assessment process and is in need at that time? What happens if one friend needs an environment with a lot of restrictions? What if there are keypads on the doors, lots of things locked away? There might be some cameras in place, or all sorts of other safety measures. And I'm not talking here about a place that's nasty. I'm talking about a place that is catering properly to safely support that individual's needs. So what if their friend, though, doesn't need these things? It's probably expensive to live there. Does someone fund them that amount just so they can be with their friend, even though they could have their needs met somewhere cheaper? Let's say they get the funding anyway, just to be nice so that they can live with their friend. Will it not be the case that although you respected the individual's human right to live with their friend, they are also having their human rights violated by living in a home that hugely restricts their independence, because any loosening of the measures in the home would put people at risk? Love. How easy do we find it to have opportunities to meet someone to fall in love with? Often people with support needs go out and about with their housemates and support staff, but may not have the chance to meet other people. This problem, of course, I did cover in the Accessing the Community talk that I gave. You might have seen, otherwise you can see it on YouTube. There are clubs, there are workplaces, holidays, plenty of places to meet people if you look. Back to the questions, again, that I don't have an answer to. What if you're in love and you want your partner to sleep over? I'm not just talking about the issue of consent to sex or anything like that, just sleeping over. I know that even in a friendship situation, I've not been allowed to have a friend come for a sleepover in a care home that I'm living in. I can't go for a sleepover at any of my friends' care homes, nor at any of my friends' supported livings. I was allowed overnight guests when I had a flat, but I still couldn't have the sleepover because my friend didn't have his own night staff. He had a shared night staff, and so he couldn't bring them with him. And the person looking after me overnight was paid specifically to look after me for the whole night and wasn't insured to have responsibility for my friend and his support needs as well. Freedom. Why is that key difficult for us? There may be rules imposed on us about what activities we can do, how we live, what time we have to be home. Are there enough staff on shift for it to be possible to support people to stay out or even just stay up late? Do risk assessments highlight all the risks of activities, but not then mitigate them? So people are always told it's too risky to pursue their personal freedoms. I say personal freedoms because freedom is different for everyone. Sometimes people apply their own ideas of freedom onto us. Like, there's a freedom to choose. A support worker removes Paw Patrol bedding from someone's room and replaces it with something that looks more conventionally grown up. They don't want to be seen as treating people with support needs as children. The problem is, I bet there are loads of people here today who have teddy bears or have bedding with a picture of a Disney character on it. You have the freedom to make that choice. It wouldn't occur to anyone to barge into your house and start removing those things. Sometimes our freedoms are at the mercy of other people's well-meaning but misguided agendas. Another point about freedom, some people have lived their whole lives without any. What if your entire life you'd been in locked hospital care settings, for instance? Would you know what freedom actually looks like? Maybe you're seeing this person who appears happy and doesn't ask you for anything, but it's because they don't even know that these exciting opportunities or adventures exist. They've never seen. The key called purpose. That one is really important to me. Personally, it means so much to me. It links in really well with the key called help, because I tend to thrive when I have a purpose in life. And for me, I'm really drawn to helping people. We don't necessarily get a lot of chances to help, even in our own homes. We'll sometimes see our friends who we live with looking distressed, and we may step forward to comfort them. But before we have the chance, the staff might usher us out of the way and tell us they've got it under control. We only get called back into the room when everything's all better. But sometimes a hug from a friend could be the greatest help. Or staff sometimes do things for us, like they do the cooking because it's quicker, or clean our room. So we don't get a chance to do anything. We don't get a sense of achievement. Then what about the discussions around how to make changes, how to gain our keys to citizenship? A lot of the time when there are talks about welfare reform, it's people without support needs leading those discussions. We don't get an invite to sit at that table. Pride. This isn't actually one of the keys, but it's something that I think goes alongside them and the wheel of engagement. We're more likely to feel pride in who we are if we have a good life. I would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to all of you, because the invites I get here are definitely something that's helped me with having pride for myself. I definitely didn't always have it. Back in hospital, if people were waving autistic pride flags, it would have just made me feel even sadder than I already was, because I didn't feel then like that was a good thing, you know, being me, having autism, having mental health problems, complex needs, all of these things. I didn't want any of it, because if I didn't have all of those things, I wouldn't be locked up in there. It's by discovering the joys of life and getting the keys, or even if you don't have them, just being able to be involved in the fight for them, that gives us pride. For me, it's my work that's important to me. Doing this, trying to help people, get involved with training, and also love and maintaining relationships with friends, family, with my girlfriend. We all want all of the keys, but I think everyone, they'll have different things behind the doors when they use those keys, and different priorities about which keys to go after first. I want to bring a message now from someone who I love, who's asked me to share her experience, because she has a different set of support needs to my own, and so it's really, really good of her to bring her perspective. She recently had a terribly hard time and lost pretty much all of her sense of pride in who she was for quite some time. Part of that was her disability. Life isn't perfect, we know that. She has her daily struggles, like all of us do. However, she actually did feel before like she had a good life. I could name a lot of the keys that she had, and plenty of achievable dreams for things that she was wanting to do. What took her pride away was that her keys were taken from her, and they were just taken suddenly. She got told her hours were being cut and she'd be left home alone. She wrote to the local authority to tell them the effect it would have on her. I'll just quote some of the things that she wanted them to know, and that she's brave enough to want to share for you all to hear. She wrote, "If I get thirsty, I cannot even move to give myself a drink. If I get hungry, I cannot feed myself. If I do a poo or a wee, I am unable to change myself. If the house sets on fire, I am unable to escape. If the internet goes down, I can't reach the router. I have only one game I can physically play to keep me entertained." And she asked, "How would you like to be stuck in this chair? What if this was you?" This was quite some time ago that she wrote that letter, and she is yet to receive a response. She has a family though, a family that always fight alongside her. And actually, her whole family got called challenging by the services. That word comes up a lot, doesn't it? Being challenging. It's always a bad thing applied to us, challenging behaviour. You know, it's funny that people that made it so that Black people could share the same spaces as white people, well, they were challenging and they made wonderful change. And the suffragettes, well, they were a challenging bunch too. Nobody got anything useful done ever by doing nothing. I encourage all of you to be as challenging as possible and fight alongside the people that you support. Make sure that they can get their voices heard. Please don't print out the keys to citizenship diagram and stick it to your fridges or filing cabinets. If you do that, then they'll stay like us, hidden in plain sight. We are more visible in society these days, but that can also make us easier to ignore because no one's actually questioning what more can be done. I'm not saying don't print anything. Of course, only print what's necessary. We want to save the trees as well. But there's a good accessible guide to the 7 keys of citizenship that Elmi can send you. You can print that, but don't stick it on the wall because that's not where people will read it or understand it. Print the wheel of engagement and have it with you and go through the keys and the wheel with the people you support, taking the time to discuss it with each of them in a way that they understand, because everybody has a different need for the communication. Do the same for your staff as well, because it's not just about people's support needs having differences. Staff have a different way than they will want to learn. And the staff are also not paying attention to this stuff if it's stuck on the wall. Stuck on the wall along with a load of other inspiring notices, a fridge temperature sheet that someone found on the floor but hasn't got round to filing back away yet, and a sign-up sheet. There's probably in all your homes, for a sponsored walk that occurred 3 years ago but hasn't been taken down. Seriously, once it's hit that notice board, it's dead. So if I've got time, I'm going to finish on a happy note. I want to show you what happened to me at the weekend. I entered a race that involved carrying a ridiculously large, ridiculously heavy 25-kilogram cheese up a steep cobbled hill. I've always been exceptionally good at running away from crowds, from noise. I'm terrified of a lot of things, actually. But I wanted to do something. I mean, I talk the talk to you all, and I can't ask you to tell the people you support to be brave if I'm never brave myself. Being brave isn't about having to do everything on your own. Going back to that key called help, there isn't actually shame in needing help. I had a lovely young chap that you can see there called Josh, who ran up the hill beside me. He didn't help me carry the cheese. I did it all myself. I didn't need someone to do it for me. It was my cheese to bear. I just needed to know I wasn't alone. And isn't that all that anyone wants really in life? To know they're not alone. Anyway, I won my race. I don't think anyone could quite believe it because I was the tiniest man and I really struggled to lift the darn cheese off the ground. But as with most things in life, it took me far, far longer to pick it up than everyone else. But once I picked it up, I flew. And the lesson I learned is that if you're good at running away, all you have to do is turn around, because running is just running whichever direction you're heading in. I kind of always thought it was a lot harder than that, but you just got to keep doing what you've been doing all your life. And instead of getting more and more isolated from the rest of the world, you just run towards everyone instead. And people actually cheer you on. So enjoy the video and thank you for listening to me.
Three, one.